Okay, let's get right into it. There was one headline about Zootopia 2 that basically sent shockwaves through the entire movie industry. It suggested an opening weekend so massive, it's almost hard to believe. But is it for real, or is this just runaway hype? We're going to break down the numbers, the competition, and the one single factor that could make or break this whole thing.
And this is it. This is the number that has everybody talking. $500 million. Now, to be clear, that's not for its entire run in theaters. Nope, that's the projection for its opening weekend alone. A number like that wouldn't just be a success, it would be a completely history-making, record-shattering event for an animated movie.
And here we go. This is the exact claim that lit the fuse. An entertainment outlet reported this absolutely staggering projection. And, well, the internet did what the internet does. It spread like wildfire. But, a claim this huge needs a much closer look. What would it actually take for any movie to pull that off in just 3 days?
To even get close to $500 million, the math has to be absolutely perfect, and honestly, it's kind of wild. The film would need to pull in a massive $200 million from China. That would be the biggest opening for a Hollywood movie there in years, since before the pandemic changed everything. At the exact same time, it would need another $200 million right here at home, domestically, which would put it in the top tier of movie openings of all time. And even then, you're not there yet. On top of all that, it would still need another $100 million from everywhere else on the planet. It's like this incredible global puzzle where every single piece has to click into place perfectly all at once.
So, the big question becomes, can this really happen? I mean, look, anything can happen, right? But is it likely? Is this a realistic, grounded expectation, or are we just watching the hype machine going into overdrive? To figure that out, we've got to dig deeper than the headlines and get into the real, hard numbers of how Hollywood actually makes its money.
Let's do the math, shall we? Because before we can even dream about a $500 million opening, we first have to understand what it takes for a movie this big just to break even. And trust me, the answer is a lot more complicated than you probably think.
Now this right here, this slide is really interesting because it shows you the real cost. Let's be generous and say the production budget, to actually make the movie is around $250 million. Okay, great. But then you have to tell the world about it. The marketing budget to advertise it globally can easily cost another $200 million. So right out of the gate, you're looking at a total investment of $450 million before a single person has bought a ticket. But here's the real kicker. The studio doesn't get to keep all that ticket money.
And this really illustrates the golden rule of blockbuster math. Because movie theaters have to take their cut and international distributors take an even bigger piece of the pie, the studio, generally speaking, gets back about 50 cents for every dollar spent on a ticket. So you do the math. For that $450 million investment, they need to generate about $900 million in global ticket sales just to get their money back. Anything short of that, and the movie actually loses money.
Okay, so let's add another layer of craziness to this whole thing. Zootopia 2 isn't just opening in some empty field. Oh no, it is walking straight into a holiday season showdown with another massive, highly anticipated movie that's fighting for the exact same audience, the exact same eyeballs, and the exact same dollars.
So on one side, you have Zootopia 2. It's a family-friendly animated movie designed for the widest possible appeal, and, this is crucial, for high rewatchability from kids. But on the other side, you've got Wicked, a film that appeals to this huge, built-in fan base of musical theater lovers, but it definitely has a darker, heavier tone. Putting these two giants so close together, well, some commentators have called it pure foolishness because they are pretty much guaranteed to steal audiences from each other.
And this timeline just shows you how absolutely brutal this holiday season is going to be. Wicked Part 2 comes out the week before Thanksgiving. Then Zootopia 2 drops right on Thanksgiving week. This timing is a potential disaster for Wicked. The first movie was a rare case that actually grew its audience in its second week, but with Zootopia 2 opening right then, the sequel has almost zero chance of doing that. It is guaranteed to see a huge drop. And then, just when they might hope to get a second win for Christmas, boom, Avatar arrives to just suck all the air out of the room. It is a total cinematic traffic jam.
So we've looked at the money, we've looked at the competition. But there is one more variable, and it's probably the most important one of all. It's the one thing that all the marketing in the world can't control, and that spreadsheets can't predict: how the audience actually feels about the movie after they see it.
This right here is where the conversation gets really interesting. The audience factor isn't about that first weekend. No, it's about week 2, week 3, and all the weeks after that.
It's all about word of mouth. It's what turns a successful opening weekend into a true, long-lasting cultural phenomenon.
And this slide really gets to the heart of the matter. The rumors have been swirling that the film has some timely social commentary. Now look, that could be brilliant, or it could be really divisive. If the movie ends up alienating a big chunk of the audience, it won't get that all-important repeat viewership from families, which is absolutely essential for an animated film to cross that billion-dollar mark. This is what we mean when we talk about a movie having legs.
And this really just says it all. It perfectly illustrates the dynamic. All the marketing, all the hype, the brand recognition, that gets people in the seats for the first weekend. But that second weekend, that's all about what those people tell their friends. If the message is, "Oh my God, you have to go see this," the movie stays strong. But if the conversation turns negative, if audiences feel like they're being lectured, you could see a massive 70% drop-off. And that right there is the difference between a hit and a flop these days.
You know, it's important to remember, the first film wasn't immune to this stuff either. Some people criticized it, saying it was basically propaganda for having police officers as the heroes. At the same time, a ton of people praised it for its really smart commentary on prejudice. It just goes to show how the same movie can be seen in completely different ways. And now, the rumors about the sequel's plot, something about mammals being accused of erasing reptile history, well, it hints that the new movie might be walking that exact same tightrope.
Okay, so if that $500 million opening weekend is probably more of a fantasy than a reality, what are the more sober, grounded expectations? What are people on the inside of the industry quietly predicting for the movie's total run?
$1.5 billion. This is the number being whispered around by insiders if everything, and I mean everything, goes perfectly right. That is a total global box office number, not an opening weekend. It's a massive figure that would make it one of the most successful animated movies in history. So yeah, the potential is definitely there. And this brings us to such a fascinating point about how Hollywood works. Success is all relative. When the expectations, both inside and outside the studio, are set this astronomically high, what does success even look like anymore? We already figured out that the break-even point is around 900 million. And in any normal world, that's a huge hit. But when the whisper number is 1.5 billion, hitting only 900 million could actually feel like a major disappointment to the studio and its investors.
And this chart just lays out that whole spectrum of possibilities perfectly. At the very bottom, you have the disappointment tier, where it basically just breaks even at 900 million. In the middle, you've got a clear success at $1 billion. And then way at the top, that's mega hit territory, the $1.5 billion outcome where it becomes a true cultural touchstone. The gap between these outcomes is just immense.
So in the end, it really all boils down to this one question. The marketing has built a mountain of hype, and the opening weekend numbers are almost certainly going to be huge. But the final story of Zootopia 2, whether it ends up as a disappointment, a success, or a genuine mega hit, that story won't be written by the marketing department. It's going to be written by us, the audiences, one conversation at a time. The real verdict always comes in week 2.